Rap album deluxe editions. They're a thing that happens. I'm not 100% sure, but as far as I can tell, it looks like we're out of that cursed period where every artist and their gran was dropping their deluxe as its own album, but that was a dark couple of years right there. And realizing that got me thinking, what are the best and worst deluxe editions out there for rap albums? Today, I'm gonna share my opinion on that with a fun little structure where we're gonna alternate between talking about a deluxe that I love and then talking about a deluxe that I really don't love until we've covered 3 for each. Sound good? Let's go.
But I don't dry tears, I just aim at them on purpose like blah. When I'm 14 like blah. Empty yet another magazine like blah.
This was the very first one that popped into my head when I thought of doing this video. Good Kid, m.A.A.d might just be my favourite hip hop deluxe of all time, which just makes sense because GKMC is one of my favourite rap albums, period. Calling albums by their acronyms sounds nowhere near as good when you're saying it out loud rather than typing it. I don't think I'm ever going to call the album GKMC again. Now, there are multiple different deluxe versions of this album. You've got the Deluxe Edition, the iTunes Deluxe Edition, the Target Deluxe Edition, the Spotify Deluxe Edition, the 2013 reissue International Bonus Tracks version. But the one that I'm talking about is the one on Apple Music that adds 4 original songs, the single version of Swimming Pools, like the radio edit, which isn't really necessary, but that's fine, and 2 remixes of Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, one of which features Jay-Z. Now, of course, none of this would mean anything towards it being a great deluxe if none of these songs were any good, but genuinely, a couple of them I would say are better than quite a few of the songs on the main album. The first of those is Black Boy Fly, which examines Kendrick's fear as a younger kid that he'll never be able to make it out of the hood because growing up, he already knew 2 other people that had managed to make something of themselves and fly out of Compton. Namely, Aaron Aflalo, whose name I didn't have to Google because I am an avid watcher of the National Basketball Association, and Jayceon Taylor, aka The Game. And him making it out from the same neighborhood as well as them just seemed impossible to a young Kendrick.
3 niggas making it out, that's mission impossible. So I never believe the type of performance that I can do.
The other track in question that I love here is Collect Calls. Once again, I think it's something that would fit in pretty solidly with the main album, telling the story from the perspective of Kendrick's friend, Dante, reaching out to his mother from jail, wanting her to unblock the phone line and accept his collect calls from there, with his mother not wanting to do so after all the lies that she's been told by him throughout his life. Kendrick finishes the song with the 3rd verse from the perspective of Dante's mother talking back to Dante, and you can just hear the frustration put into the lyrics and the delivery here. She loves Dante and wants to help him out of this legal situation that he's landed himself in, but as it says in the lyrics, she'd rather see him locked up than dead, because she believes that's how he's gonna end up if he gets out of prison time. Fucking hell, I thought I'd be flying through each segment here. I didn't even mean to talk about those 2 songs for a decent bit of time, but that's how good they are. And while I'm not going to talk about the other 2 as much, The Recipe and Now or Never are still amazing tracks. And then the remixes, man. I don't really listen to the Emily Sandé remix of Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe because it doesn't really add much to the original. It's pretty much the same song, just with her vocals in it. But the Jay-Z remix is basically an entire new song with fresh verses from Kendrick and of course a slick new feature verse from Jay-Z. A lot of the time it's one of those remixes that I choose to listen to over the original. I talked about this one for longer than probably any other one I'm going to talk about on this video, but that's because I genuinely think Good Kid, m.A.A.d is at the very upper echelon when it comes to deluxe editions. There's not a whole bunch of explaining to do with this one. The original SremmLife 2 was an album that I enjoyed quite a bit. The deluxe edition adds 3 new tracks that are worse than basically all the 11 main album tracks. Over here, who the fuck is Bobo Sway and what the fuck is this? The synth sound on that beat that just buzzes around your ears in circles drives me mad. Swang? Oh my fucking god, Swang. You'll know how I feel about that one if you watch my second video on the most overhyped rap songs. Just one of the most annoying Rae Sremmurd flows ever, mixed in with some of their most boring. And then, Just Like Us. If this wasn't recorded before the rest of the album, I'd be shocked, because Sway's singing sounds really bad on here compared to songs like Look Alive and Black Beatles.
It ain't no more daddy's little girl.
The pop star version of Sway Lee, this certainly was not. There is worse deluxe albums out there, and we will get to a couple of those, but this is one that always comes to mind for me when the topic of weak deluxe edition songs comes up. Not tragically bad, but really disappointing compared to the level that I enjoy the original SremmLife 2 at now.
First 48 hours, round 22 and sleep 2 hours. Put 24s on a new outing. White on white like baby powder.
Did you know the original version of Dirty Sprite 2 ends at track 13? I didn't, because most streaming services only have the deluxe version available to download, so I actually had to look it up on Wikipedia to see when the regular version ends, and I was shocked to see that it cuts out the Percocet and stripper joint and Know the Meaning, which is a couple of the album's best tracks. Hearing Future on such a low-key, chill beat like the one he rapped on the Percocet and stripper joint was so fresh for the album, and that made it one of the highlights. And Know the Meaning is one of the most lyrically interesting tracks on there, with consistent storytelling from Future about that time when DJ Esco was locked up in Dubai for possession of the devil's lettuce in 2014, meaning that Future thought that he had permanently lost the hard drives that he had recorded all his music on for 2 years straight because DJ Esco was locked up with those hard drives, which prompted Future to make Beast Mode, which has some brilliant tracks in its own right. That instrumental for Peacoat, man, that shit has me floating every single time I listen to it. That's not even mentioning Fuck Up Some Commas. This song was released before DS2 on his Monster mixtape, but I would argue that putting it on DS2 is one of the main things that gave it a huge boost to make it one of Future's most popular songs. In fact, 3 of these deluxe tracks are from previous Future mixtapes, but I actually kind of like the fact that he put them on here, because they fit in pretty nicely with the sound of DS2, like they don't feel out of place at all, and it just gives them more exposure being on a double platinum album. By the way, you know how Lil Uzi Vert just started slowly growing on me over time to the point that I really like him now? You're watching the same thing happen to me with Future currently. I'm going through my Future era. Literally all the deluxe version of DS2 does is add on to the original, making it feel more complete and containing some of the best tracks on the album, which is all that a great deluxe needs to do. Combined with the original, it makes for one of Future's best albums.
No education flooded both my wrists. Panoramic roof, she blow me kisses.
It was only a matter of time before we got to a deluxe version that's its whole own full-length album in this worst section of the video. And it's kinda here for the same reason as the SremmLife 2 deluxe was. The majority of the tracks on here just aren't as good as the original album, except the number of bonus tracks has now went from 3 to 14, and the original album is Good Intentions. And Good Intentions is no SremmLife 2, which was a good core album, but Brown Boy 2, aka Brown Boy Story, aka Finding Navraj, aka Wally, that one stays the same because he sounds like a robot, manages to stand out as the most boring of the two by far. Yes, the album that has the abomination that is Coast to Coast is better than this deluxe. Listening to this always feels like the longest 38 minutes of my life. I can remember every experience I've had with listening to this specifically. Every single time I reach the track Heat, I get so bored that I have to check where I'm at in the track list, and I painfully realize that I'm only on track 7. There's 7 more to go. Then it's followed with No Time. It's just a big 1-2 of moving through time in slow motion. And Yes Sir doesn't do the project any favors after those two. At most, I'd say there's like 3 solid songs on Brown Boy 2. This could have just been a regular deluxe edition that adds a few songs. I'm Up, Frequently in Pain, so there you go. I don't like most of these deluxes that drop as their own full album. Nav was just unlucky enough to have the one out of all of them that I consider to be the worst. It's a shining example of stacking a deluxe with more than 10 tracks that mainly feel like throwaways just to boost chart performance and manipulate the streams a little bit. It comes off like a whole project of filler, and I'm just not here for that.
I put it on the table so that everything was clear. Put them diamonds on your necklace to match them on your ear. She like send me a text.
The m.A.A.d 2 Deluxe is the only proper way to listen to the album from start to finish, in my opinion. That is what separates good from bad deluxe editions to me. The deluxe should feel like a necessary extension of the album and not just optional extras. And the main reason why I think the deluxe is better here is because with the original version you end on the song War, which is a fairly nice song, but it's not a big departure from Pop Smoke's usual drill sound. But if you're listening to the deluxe, the project ends with Like Me, which is a complete departure from Pop Smoke's usual sound. I remember listening to this for the first time. Okay, I was washing the dishes when I listened to m.A.A.d 2 for the first time. I remember going through the album, really enjoying it, and then I reached that last track, Like Me, and I just thought to myself, whoa, this is something completely different, and I really like how this sounds. So this is showing that Pop Smoke can do even more with his sound, and it got me really excited thinking about where he could have taken that in the future. War is not a bad way to finish the album, but it doesn't set you up for where Pop Smoke might have been heading with his music, like Me does. On top of that, it adds Wolves, which is another great drill banger featuring Nav of all people, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually really love how he sounds over drill beats. I went in hard on Nav in the last segment, but he killed it on Jesse Owens and Wolves in my opinion. And we get a remix of Dior featuring Gunna, which up to this point was the third time that Dior had been featured on a Pop Smoke album. I actually believe 2 of those times was on this album. But it's a remix, so it gets a pass, and once again, I actually kind of fuck with Gunna over drill instrumentals as well. Maybe this style of production just makes people sound more exciting automatically, I don't know. So all in all, the m.A.A.d 2 Deluxe doesn't add a whole bunch to the album in terms of quantity, but that's what I like. It only added what was needed, and it made it my preferred way to listen to the album. 53 fucking tracks. Before we even get going with this one, I've got to make one thing really clear. I'm not criticizing X for this deluxe being really bad because he didn't make it. It's about the handling of his music after his passing, and this thing right here comes off as the most shameless cash grab possible. Is this even really a deluxe edition? It's more of a throw absolutely everything related to the album that we can at it to make it longer edition. Ja on drums? I shit you not, it is just a track of X playing the drums. And it's not even like this is a documentary, like there's no visual element to it, it's just somebody playing the drums who happens to be X. Okay, let's go through everything that's added on here. We have 17 instrumentals, 1 for every song on the album, a random freestyle over the Hope instrumental, an acoustic version of the song Numb from the album. It's the only acoustic version on this deluxe. The Proud Cat Owner remix, which is the only sort of new song on here because it contains a new verse from Rico Nasty. His whole A Ghetto Christmas Carol EP, which is already on streaming services because why the fuck not? And then 8 voice memos related to the recording and creation of this album. I guess the voice memos are kind of cool if you're like a mega fan of the album and you want to get more of an insight into the creative process behind the songs, I guess. But overall, I've never seen another deluxe quite like this. It is astonishing how much they managed to add on here without adding any new music. This is the worst deluxe to me by far because listening to it just feels wrong. It feels like I'm listening to a shameless cash grab when it doesn't add any new songs and tacks on so much random shit. Ja on drums. There's no real artistic vision behind this deluxe because the artist didn't make it. I know that there's even a bunch of X's own fans that think this is too far. The handling of his music after his passing has just been pretty fucked, and I think nothing showcases that more than a 53 track deluxe with no new music. But hey, that's just what I think. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have your own list of good or bad deluxe albums that you want to share, drop them down in the comments below. And hey, if you want to see more of me entering my future era, which I talked about earlier in this video, click right there on the screen to watch my first reaction to his new album. It's full of fun and memes and all that good stuff. It's up there with some of my better reactions in my opinion. Much love to all my patrons for their continued support, whichever side of the screen they're on, and a massive shout out to my biggest supporters: Big Daddy Foe, Griffin Upchurch, I Am Regent, and Ryan Shadow 507.